Friends, welcome to the B-side of Something Has to Change by the Japanese House. I'm choosing for this to record the energy drinks I've had over the last couple of days because so much of Something Has to Change is about the idea that we do the same thing over and over again. And we talked a little bit in class about ritual, and it was interesting to me that this song connects our idea of ritual to ideas of grieving and being stuck in one place. I get an energy drink every day, and I partly joke to my roommate that it's because of my caffeine addiction, but also it's because it's a moment of tenderness between himself and I when we'll go down and get an energy drink together. But to the Japanese house, that's about mourning, as they talk about how the daily rituals have to be changed in the subject's life. And so that's something I'm going to get into in this entry. So before I get too far into explaining it, I want to say first off that when you receive the physical annotations of the playlists that go with these digital recordings, you'll notice that the notes about this song is typed and that they started as handwritten. I wanted them all to be handwritten as another refusal to cultivate the process or sanitize it. Pages would be unevenly ripped out, my handwriting would be messy, and there would be spelling mistakes. Dr. Winrock talked about lecture and how when you're producing something live, there's a real vulnerability to it. Slip ups make it in, stumbling over your words, stutters. And that's in these recordings, but I wanted there to be proof of that in the paper, like that. But in order to have something to show, I switched to typing because it's faster. I don't know the order you'll listen to the playlist in, and so I don't know which entry you'll notice is typed first. But this was the first entry I typed, and so I wanted that to be here. So firstly, my old boss Jilly is how I heard about this song. It was in her work playlist, and I would use Shazam to find it, and then I would have to use Shazam over and over again because I never Googled it. And that's another ritual I connect to the song. It's worth noting that I would argue this song isn't creative. It comes up more in Wither Away's cover of I Really Want to Stay at Your House when I explain that one, but this song appears before that on the playlist, and I don't know the order you'll be listening to this in. And in case this is the first time you hear it, I'll talk about Barths and the idea of trusting the banality in yourself. In Morning Diary, Barths writes about how he worries that the morning has rendered him immobile, and he doesn't know that it will ever stop. He writes about how he has been rendered immobile, but he's not actually immobile. To Barths, the feeling of mourning defies linearity, and so even if he isn't moving himself, the mourning is moving. So in my MP1, I talked a bit about how we try to create a universal mourner, and part of that construction is the idea of the 5 stages of grief. We have a solid narrative for how the grieving process should look, but I think this is tied to Ross's idea of the factory where loss makes beautiful things grow. We have to be churning something out at all times, and one product of this is our idea of universal mourning. And so we have these, as Ross would call them, horseshit tricks. I'm sorry for your loss. This too shall pass. And so on and so forth. We have no shortage of these sayings to try and nudge someone further along in the mourning process. And the song talks a lot about this, I think. Especially in the first line, you got the same train and you took it back to the same place. You're back where you started. But interestingly, though, the idea of the universal mourner, I think, is complicated by this song, where it chooses to use second person pronouns in its address, even though there's some, which implies there's universality to it because it can address you. Once this song made it into my playlist, one of the connections I made for it was Amy when she writes about the Southern Cassowary. It makes this boom that we can feel but not hear. And I know, at least for myself, when I listened to the song for the first time, I wasn't sure I had heard any of the lyrics. If I had heard the lyrics, I could have added it to my playlist without having to Shazam it over and over again and be laughed at by my roommate. But I certainly felt it, the feeling of stagnation and of being stuck in place. So this idea is in several entries of the playlist, but mourning the self is really fascinating to me. Mourning not being where you want to be, not knowing how to get to where you want to be and who you want to be. And listening to this song also took me back to Beholding. I'll write about it in this entry, But just keep in mind, it's true for all of the songs on this list. In order for this thing to even exist, like Ross does, I had to keep rewinding over and over again. Sometimes it had to be to know what the lyrics are. Sometimes it had to be to come up with an idea of what I wanted to say. Or sometimes, I just wanted to because I was fascinated and blown away. And so Beholding and this project deal a lot with replaying moments over and over. And this song does too, and so does Mourning. When thinking about Ross and the idea of presentness, while we can mourn someone who's still alive but no longer around, as I've written about, a lot of mourning is about the loss of presence, not having a body around, not having a relationship around. And this song shows us what it is to be stuck in that loop. And it's the same girl who's giving you hell, and it's the same face. Your heart keeps breaking in the same place. And I've been thinking about the you that this song addresses. One of the things we talked about in Dr. Winrock's class is the audience and who we want the audience to be, and even who we expect the audience to be. I've been the you in this audience. I know the girl has been breaking my heart over and over, but all of mourning is like this, I think. The same thing keeps breaking your heart and you don't want it to, so you try to move on to something else. But this time, instead of watching Dr. J dunk over and over again, you keep taking the train back to the places that make you mourn.